Hi, and welcome to another tutorial by Mira G. Today we're going to go over music videos, a video making fundamentals tutorial for students. So what are we going to cover today? We'll start by talking about storyboarding, what it is and why it's important. Then we'll move on to storyboard language, the types of shots, camera movements, and composition. Finally, we'll talk about the specifics of music videos. What should you be thinking about when you make music videos? So firstly, let's start about storyboarding. If you haven't heard of storyboarding, it's a fundamental part of video making. A storyboard is a graphic representation of how a video will unfold, shot by shot. It's made up of a number of squares with illustrations or pictures representing each shot, with notes about what's going on in the scene. You do not have to be an amazing artist. You can do stick figures, it doesn't really matter. A storyboard visually tells the story of animation or a video panel by panel, kind of like a comic book. You do not need to be an amazing artist. You just need to be sketching out your ideas. You can think of this like doing a rough draft for a paper. So your storyboard will convey some of the following information. What type of shot are you using? What characters are in the frame? How are they moving? What are the characters saying to each other, if anything? How much time has passed between the last frame of the storyboard and this one? And where is the camera in the scene? Is it close, far away? Is the camera moving? So again, a storyboard is like writing a rough draft. You need to plan out what you're doing so that your project isn't a mess. That doesn't mean that you have to stick only to what your storyboard says. You could be changing your idea out when you're in the field, but it's good to have a general idea before you start shooting. Now let's talk about storyboard language. The more detailed your storyboard is, the better it is for your planning. But what kind of information is helpful? Well, firstly is the type of shot. Long shot, medium shot, close-up, extreme close-up, master shot, point of view, etc. This is sort of the language of storyboarding, so this is important information to learn. Then you can think about transitions between shots, dissolve, fade in and out, wipe out, etc. Now, important to remember if you're planning to use transitions between shots, you're going to want to add a little padding in the front and the back end of your shooting, because the transitions will cut into your shots. So it's always good to have an additional 10 to 15 seconds in the beginning and the end of each shot, just so you have a little sort of wiggle room when you're doing your transitions. Another part of the storyboard language is indicating camera angles and movement. This is whether it's a high camera angle, low camera angle, if there's panning, zooming, etc. So let's start by going over what are the different types of shots. So here are just a few shot types. So remember, the shot conveys specific visual information for your viewer, and these are just a few. There are more. The first is the long shot. This shows the full length of the body from the feet to the top of the head. It's used to show a character in relation to their surroundings. Next is medium shot. This shows the body from mid-thigh to the top of the head. This is used for facial expression and showing the character in relation to their surroundings. Then you zoom in a little closer, we have something called the mid shot. This shows the character from the waist to the top of the head, and it's used for facial expressions in combination with body language. And as you can see, each of these shots is kind of zooming in closer and closer. And therefore, the next shot is called close-up. This shows the character from the shoulders to the top of the head, and it's used for capturing characters' facial expressions. Remember, the closer and closer you get to the face, the more that the facial expressions become important. And that's where we have the extreme close-up. This is when an object, item, or body part fills the entire fill frame, and it's often used for heightening emotion. We have other shots including extreme long or wide shot, and these are sort of terms that are interchangeable. It's also known as the establishing shot at the start of a film or scene, and it shows the full body, or sometimes there's not even a full body, it's just the whole entire surroundings. And this contextualizes where the viewer is within the story. I actually have a video that goes into more detail the different types of shots and videos, and if you're interested in watching that, the link is in the description below. So once you decide the type of shot, when you're composing your frame, you're doing something called composition. And you need to think about composition as if you're arranging the elements within the frame. Now, this is a great video from Steve McCurry on the COOPH photo channel, which I recommend. It's about photography, but it applies to videography as well. It's called the 9 Photo Composition Tips. Now, here are some of the stills that are pulled from that specific video because they're really great at illustrating what composition is. Your frame is your canvas, so you want to fill it with things that are useful to your story and arrange them in a way that is pleasing to the viewer. So remember, all of this helps tell your story. So first off is rule of thirds, where you place points of interest on the intersections and position important elements along the lines. Again, if you've ever studied photography, this is a direct translation from that. The next is leading lines, where you use natural lines to lead the viewer's eye into the picture. Then you have diagonals, which can create a sense of movement, and framing, where you can use natural frames like windows and doors to create visual interest. Now, there are lots more parts of creating a video. There's things like camera angle, where this is also a consideration in your visual language. The first is, what angle are you shooting from? Are you shooting at eye level? Well, this is where you're filmed from the character's eye level, and filming from this angle is a pretty neutral position and allows the audience to become comfortable with the characters. That's different than some of these other angles. One is high angle, where the shot is filmed from above, and filming from this angle may make your characters appear smaller or more vulnerable. Think about children. You look at them from above, and so this is sort of mimicking that same thing. Next is the worm's eye view. And a worm's eye view is from ground level, looking up at the character. Filming from this angle creates a really dramatic effect. Think about if you're looking up at a giant, right? So it's a really dramatic play on the angle. And the next is low angle, and this is filmed below eye level. Filming like this makes the character appear larger and more powerful. The next sort of ingredient in your video is camera movement, and this is the way the camera shifts and moves. It can help also guide and shape your story, as well as create visual interest. So there's something called tracking, where the camera moves backwards and forwards along a track, usually known as a dolly or truck. And if you're using this at home, you can also like put your camera on a wheelie chair or something like that. The next is panning, and this is where the camera moves left to right from a fixed position on a horizontal plane, similar to a person turning their head left or right. And the last is tilt, and this is where camera moves from a fixed point on a vertical plane, similar to a person raising their head up or lowering their head down. So this is like another ingredient. Other considerations to think about is the use of a tripod. And if you have access to a tripod, I would highly recommend it. You can also think about making your body into a human tripod, as I like to call it, where you're propping yourself and making yourself really sturdy, where you're trying to minimize the camera shakes, such as using your elbows on a table, propping them up against the wall. You can also just literally prop up your camera. So this is an important consideration because camera shake is not only distracting, but can actually make people nauseous. So camera shake is something really important to think about. The next is lighting. Are the people being filmed facing the light source rather standing to the backs to it? Is there enough lighting to actually see what's going on? So there's lots of different considerations when you're actually shooting. Now let's talk about music videos in specific. So music videos are a specific genre of videos and films. And within music videos, there are many, many types of music videos. They're not all the same. So we have straight up recorded performances. We have music videos that are basically like stories and much unfold like a fiction film. And then we have very abstract films that are kind of like visual poems. All of them have one thing in common. They take the viewer on a journey from the beginning of the song to the end of the song. So some questions to think about when you are creating your video. So is this a performance video, a narrative video, abstract? It doesn't have to be just one. It can be a mix of different types. Whose point of view are you telling the story from? Are you telling the narrative from a particular point of view? What tone are you trying to obtain? Is this upbeat and poppy, slow and dramatic? What tone are you going for? This should very much be in line with your actual song. And then thinking about the musical beats. Are you making your video cuts and transitions on beat or off beat? Remember, it isn't necessary to make every single cut happen on a strong beat of the music. So using all of this and the visual language of video, type of shot, composition, camera movement, framing will all create the tonality and vision of your music video. Now, one thing I highly recommend is to take a look at different music videos out there and then analyze what's working and what you like. And so you can take those ideas and bring them into your own. So if I was going to be looking at this video by Olivia Rodrigo, I would look at it and say, is this performance, narrative, abstract? Whose point of view is this video from? What's the tone? What type of shots, camera movements, and framing is being used? And then based on what I like, I can use some of that into my own video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Remember, please subscribe and like this video to help support my channel. And if you have any requests for specific tutorials, please put them in the comments below.